All right, we're out here today. I put this nasty air filter on just to cover the throttle body up. But we're out here today and trying to finish things up to where I can get this thing to run on the frame before I put the cab on it. And the first problem I had is I'd ordered 2 sets of plug wires for the big blocks, which they have to have the straight ends on them. And I ordered a set for this truck and a set for the El Camino. And they sent me the wires, and they got the terminals on the cap end for a points distributor. So see, HEI's got the male end sticking out, needs a female plug. And these are male ends that go in a female points distributor cap. So one set of wires come with the ends. So I've got to change the ends on the wires before I can crank it up. Then I've got the radiator that come out this big block truck. I got it set up here now. I hadn't cleaned anything up on the brackets. I will clean these up before it's permanently installed. And I don't even know if I'm gonna use this radiator, but I figured I'd use it to break the cam in and see if it holds water. So I got my transmission cooling lines hooked up, getting ready to go. I've got the hoses in the shop. I got to go get them. And I've got to put the reservoir on the power steering pump and tighten that belt up a little bit. And I'll just zip tie it to the core support because it's got to be tied to something because of a remote reservoir. And then before I crank it up, I'm going to jack the back tires up and put it on jack stands in the back, so if it's in gear or whatever. And then I can run it in gear to see how the transmission pulls. But anyhow, got to fix them plug wires. I've got a set of gauges here, the oil pressure gauge and a temperature gauge. So I've got to get a bushing, a pipe bushing that's this size inside and this side outside, so I can hook it up, and then it also will work for my factory oil pressure hard line here. So I've got to go to the hardware and find that. Let's see what else we got to do. Oh, we got the fuel lines and brake lines all tied down on the frame. Like I said, we've got this fuel inlet line, the supply line. It's run back here to the cross member. So we're just going to run a line into this gas jug here. And that way we can pressurize the system, check for leaks, and run this motor to break it in. So we're going to do that. Like I said, we got the core support mounted up here. And we'll just, the battery box sits over here, but I don't know if I'm gonna mount it up on the core support yet because there's really no support. I mean, it's just the 2 body mounts holding it. So I think I'll just sit it here and hook it up. So I had to hook 2 battery cables up. I don't know if I showed this the other day. There's my fuel pump block off plate. So I get these radiator hoses on here and fix these plug wires. Go get that oil pressure fitting. Plug my temperature sensor into that plug there and hook my oil pressure sensor up, and we'll just lay them over here somewhere where we can monitor that stuff. I've put transmission fluid in the transmission. I have not put oil in it yet, and I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. The new oil sucks. So on a flat tappet cam, like the old school engine, you got to put the zinc additive in the oil or you will wipe the cam out. So we're gonna fill an oil filter full of oil, put it on there, dump the zinc in the engine, and then fill it up with oil. Fill the radiator up with, we're just gonna put straight water in it for now because we're pressure testing this radiator basically. We've got the heater hose outlets blocked off, which those will get nipples back in for the heater hoses whenever we put the cab on. I still have to put the heater core in the cab and do the fuel tank and fuel cylinder in the cab, but then that's going to be pretty much ready to go on this chassis. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Just trying to get everything buttoned up. I don't like, these are the power steering hoses for this thing, but I don't like the way they run. But we'll get the cab on and see. I've took this line off 4 or 5 times to try to route it over top of the frame, and it wouldn't work. I don't know. It won't swap other ends, so it has to go this way because the fittings are different sizes. But anyhow, we're getting really close to cranking this thing up and hearing it run. So y'all stand by and we'll get you more on this thing as when we get there. We're almost there now. So y'all hang tight. Alright, we got it. We're topping the oil off now. Got the radiator hoses on it, which this one needs trimming a little bit, but I'm not going to trim it until I get the cab on. Make sure the radiator core support's straight and everything, but it looks like it needs to be trimmed just an inch or 2. And same thing with the lower. I put the old lower hose on for the time being, but I've got brand new hoses going here. But like I said, it needs to be trimmed too, so we'll wait to trim it until we get to everything. And I need to get new hose clamps. I used to use clamps and they look like crap, so we'll get that. I got to get the battery cables on. I got to wire. I got to ground the fuel pump and wire the Bandit EFI to the fuel pump. And yeah, we're getting real close. So we're still plugging away at it. And I told you guys it'd probably be this video right here with the cranking and running, but it looks like it's gonna buttoning up these details right here. It's gonna be one more video before I crank it, but it will probably get cranked today. But I want y'all to be here for the crank and the running it through the cam break-in stage and all that, so I don't want to cut that short. I like to zip tie my plug wires and make separators out of zip ties and just run them really neat. So I need to spend some time doing that and change these ends out. And then I need to make sure that none of this wire is close to the headers. And then we'll go from there. We've got all the vacuum ports plugged off right now. Don't want to have any chance of vacuum leaks while we're breaking this cam in, so we won't run any of the vacuums until we get the thing set up in the cab with the cab on it. So, or we'll hook the vacuum lines up right before we do that. But anyhow, like I said, buttoning up these last details here. But yeah, it's going really well. I'm real happy with the way it's going. And I got my transmission shift linkage all put on except for the part that goes up to the steering column. And I'll wait on that until I get the cab back on. So it's getting there. Like I said, I got this is the brake line from the front brakes. I haven't put the rear brake line on yet because it's just going to be like this one. It's hanging out in the way. So I won't bolt it on till right as I'm putting the cab on. I'll bolt it up. But it's looking pretty good. Like I said, don't mind that kink in that upper radiator hose. We're gonna get it straightened out before we finish up. I'm gonna get the cab and fenders mounted up to make sure the core support's straight and level, because right now the only thing that's holding it's the cushions on the frame, so that position could shift. So, but we'll do all the final fitment on those hoses and everything once we get everything squared away with the truck on the cab, or the cab on the frame, or however you want to put it. But anyhow, so y'all stay tuned, and I promise the next video will be at running.